welcome to another episode of A Journey in Boots from Trauma to Triumph. I'm your co-host, Dorothy Odell. I'm the owner of Unstoppable Overcomers Productions, where we are a full-service media agency. For more information, go check out our website at unstoppableovercomers.com. And this is the amazing and lovely Dr. Jay Royster. Welcome back. We missed you last week. So you want to tell the audience?
Busy week last week.
You want to tell the audience a little bit about Semper Modus if this is the first time that, and I'm wearing the swag for you, if this is the first time they've tuned into the show.
So Semper Modus is a bunch of veterans and first responders and people that are, I guess, veteran adjacent, veteran supporters and people that are married to veterans, you poor souls, who have decided to join, the for-profit corporation that I own, I run. Basically, we serve those who serve and their families. So we are in 14 states now, I think. Doing pretty well. We're keeping it. We're taking care of everybody who comes through the door. It doesn't matter what you're struggling with, whether it's a toenail, hangnail, or something as serious as, something that plagues you every single day and you struggle to get out of bed. We are there to serve you, and we get to you as quickly as we can. We get your insurance information and get you situated. So that's what we do. Yay.
And they're really great at it.
So welcome, everybody. Thank you.
Yes.
We love to serve. We've definitely found our hope and purpose. So yeah.
Amen. Awesome. All right. So I'm excited. Are you excited? Because we have the amazing Logan Williams. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, Dr. J, take it away.
So, Logan, and I got connected with you. Chief Hendrick sent me your information, and we connected, and he said you wanted to keep serving, and God knows I serve a lot and know everybody everywhere, so that's not true. I just know a lot of people. But you are in Virginia. So tell us a little bit about, God, why did you serve your country? Let's start there.
Yeah, so currently living in West Virginia, but right on the Panhandle in Martinsburg. So I'm only 15 minutes away from Virginia. Okay. I am a Virginia native. I was born and raised there. And I've really just started to figure out and plan what the next steps of my life look like. And this is in terms of not just profession, but who I want to become and who I want to earn to become. And in that sense, it's really connecting back from the very start of like my life as being a brother to someone who had special needs, my brother Chandler. So I've been in this position of service or care since I was a child, and I've really been trying to remap what that looks like, going from wearing a uniform, saying I'm going to serve my country, to now what's it look like to serve myself, serve my community, and serve my family in some pretty enlightening ways.
Very cool. So when you walked through the door, took your ASVAB, went to MEPS, did you have any preconceived notions of what we're in the Army look like?
So I had a lot of preconceived notions. I initially wanted to become a cook. I was working in a restaurant, the Green Turtle, when I was about like 15, 16, and then taking the culinary classes that they offered at the high school. And I said, this is like what I want to do. I like working in the kitchen. I like the environments of restaurants. And then I got talked into going to a recruiter station with one of my buddies, Henry, who he's no longer here, but we grew up together. And he was a year ahead of me. He played with G.I. Joes and I'd play with Transformers, and we'd do that whole thing together, whether climbing trees or playing with sticks. And he joined the Army as well, but he said, you got to come down, come down the recruiting station, they want to talk to you. And that day when I went down thinking, I could go, I'll go be a cook, I'll go do this. I met an infantryman. I met a Staff Sergeant, Joshua Hanslick, who was in the 101st, who was at the Rock-a-Sans. And then immediately, I was just kind of like enamored by the presence of an infantryman. Um,
It was the
he
blue
was
ribbon.
tall.
We know.
Yeah, he just I mean, like the way that he spoke and communicated about the job. And this was really, he served as one of the first people outside of my family who saw something in me that could be, okay, well, there's potential in there. Let's tap it. He got me involved in sports and all these kinds of things. I was very non-athletic throughout kind of like my childhood, and he gave me a lot of purpose. And hey, you want to go do this? Well, go start doing something today about it. So I started, doing track and cross country, um, and all that. But he changed my mind from wanting to be a cook to say, I want to go become an infantryman. I want to go hike up the mountains of Afghanistan and serve my country in a way that I've only been hearing about for. I was born in 1995. The global war on terror kicked off
Oh
in
God.
the early 2000s, and that has been my life as a young person coming up in the time, from whether it was watching
I
Fox,
was active
UN.
duty in 1995.
Yeah, it's funny how time works, right? It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
It was only 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
the
yeah.
right age of 30 now, halfway to 60. Um, and that is a huge goal for me now, is just to become an elder, just to live and become an elder, and hopefully repay those lessons at a bigger scale than I'm doing now, because it only continues. Time only keeps going. But Staff Sergeant Joshua Hans really solidified that desire to become a warrior, and then also coming from a single parent household, there was angsty teenage male energy of, I don't know what a man is, or what this even looks like. We read a lot of books in high school. Surprisingly, I slept through the Red Badge of Courage, but the Odyssey was one that stuck
I
out
think we
with
all
me.
did. It's okay.
Yeah, and I said, what? Hearing the story of Odysseus, I really connected with that. And I said, wow, this is what adulthood must be like. And the way that I have seen that story would shift, every 5 years, I'll see it in a different way. But at the time, I
Right.
really connected with Odysseus' son, Telemachus, who wants to go out and find him. Who is my father? Kind of thing. So a lot of those questions I had, and I figured, well, you know what, in the spirit, let me go on my own pilgrimage, my own Odyssey. I've been surrounded by conflict, and I've never really experienced it. I live in a privileged America in that way. So let me put myself in some adversity. Let me challenge myself and see if I can come out the other side. And that's kind of what led me down to taking the ASVAB, getting a score that they said, this is excellent. But it was not an excellent score. But it was good enough for infantry. And that's all I wanted to do, was be an airborne infantryman.
Man. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody say that they wanted to put themselves into chaos or into a situation where it's like fight or flight, right?
Mhm.
So
yeah.
kudos to you.
Well, it's one of those things where I didn't realize it was like this motive, that I really think just came from my childhood. My brother has cerebral palsy, Newton syndrome, and Hertzsprung disease. He's nonverbal. He was able to walk at one point, and then they had to do operations because he was still growing. So they did surgery to a point to where he wasn't able to walk. And I feel like a lot of my early childhood, as much as I didn't recognize it as a kid, it was just my life. I was just surrounded by the love for my brother and the love for my mother. But then, of course, as I grew, I had a little bit of perspective. But it was a pretty chaotic childhood. Looking back at it as an adult, I was often like waving down sirens, as my brother had seizures pretty regularly up until he was about 10 years old. So I spent a lot of time trying to support my mom or support my brother. So it didn't click for me, like, oh, I'm kind of just chasing this chaos, or this risk a little bit. And it kind of felt like a last ditch effort, like for my own autonomy. If I'm going to become what I think I can become, what people have been telling me I can become, then let me go and try and set sail on my own. Let me take a little bit too much pride and kind of say, okay, mom, brother, family, I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to go enlist and see what happens.
I think you need to do that as somebody who's been a caregiver her entire life. I understand that. Like, you want to forge your own path. You don't want to live in someone else's shadow, although that may sound harsh, but technically that's what we've done.
So you have to create a purpose for yourself. I'm more interested in what's going on behind him. So can you tell us what your wall is about?
Oh yeah. So this is kind of my wall, and it just so happens to be behind my computer. But from the top, I have over to the left side all of my grandfather's patches. He was in the Army Reserves, and he worked on helicopters, and then later worked for Boeing for 30 years. And then to the right side, I just have some of my flags and my ISAF patches, a few things that we've traded with the Mexican paratroopers. We traded some patches with them, and then also with some of the A&A guys down there. And then below that, I have easily my biggest accomplishment and something that's followed me throughout my military career and then afterwards, which is just the U.S. Army Ranger School graduation photo. That was a enormous moment in my life. It's a rigorous leadership school focused on small unit tactics and guerrilla warfare. And while I was in that school, my grandmother had passed away, and then I was also I was struck by lightning with 9 others. So that school it set me up for everything that kind of happened afterwards in my life, or how I see things were really crafted in this school for 123 days that I was in. Below that, over to the left, I just have my airborne school graduation photo. I'm pretty proud about. And then to the right, yeah, it's cool stuff. That I try to be proud of it. There was a big part of me that when I got out, I said, I don't know if I want this. It's like I want anything of the military up in my home at all or anything like that. But I broke down pretty quick and said, you know what? No, I did this. This is a part of my life, and I want it here. And I had my maroon beret from serving with the 501st in Alaska. I was in I'm an infantryman, or I was an infantryman, and I was in a cav unit, and they do this thing called the spur ride, which is like a long, supposedly very challenging kind of course, but not challenging if you're an infantryman in any way, shape, or form. So I earned my golden spurs and my silver spurs. Gold are for the deployment, and then silver for the spur ride. And then I have my retirement flag hung up on the wall as well, which is pretty important to me. I parted ways with my I took a flag on all 3 of my deployments, and I parted ways with that a few months ago. We have a student veterans union at the campus that I went to, Shenandoah University. And a lot of the veterans there have been, donating or trying to fill the space with our own things to make it like an MWR or like a USO. Those very critical spaces that when you're downrange or traveling, you go to and you have like a little bit of solitude, or a little bit of peace, or a little bit of rest and leisure. But that's my wall. I don't know if you see anything else behind that. There's a didgeridoo behind the light. I don't know if you can catch that. I don't play it as often, but it sounds really nice. That's my wall. Yeah.
What's hanging up?
What was that?
What's hanging up behind you?
Oh, that is this is my graduation regalia. I have this hung up. So I have my honor cords, and then my Army veteran stole. So I got that. They said, don't steam it, don't dry clean it. So I'm letting everything kind of settle because graduation is coming up in about 20 days. So looking forward to it.
And graduation from, I already know, but I want you to share with the audience.
Yeah, so I went to Shenandoah University, and I studied psychology. I got a Bachelor's of Science in psychology and then a minor in sociology. And that was my big pivot shift after the military, kind of going through a medical retirement, to where they said, okay, Sergeant Williams, you can't have your weapon anymore. We're going to put you on a staff job. Here's all these appointments for your eyes, for your head, for how to speak, for getting your medications right. I kind of took that as a sign of, maybe I shouldn't go do security work or contracting work on the outside, and really kind of use that as an opportunity that slowly started to develop as I was, I had a TBI from the lightning strike and a heat stroke. So I was going to occupational therapy to work with my eyes and my hand coordination. I was seeing a speech pathologist to really try and work on my speak. I was slurring a lot of words, so I was no longer the articulate staff sergeant who was presenting excellent classes. I had kind of had a lot of mush in my mouth for a while. I went to cognitive behavioral therapy with a group, and just some talk therapy. But all these things, it was a lot, and even art therapy. And thankfully, the base where I was receiving treatment at was a joint base. So it wasn't Army doctors, it was Air Force doctors and Air Force resources who were hooking up a soldier. Oh, yeah. It really brought me out of this. And as you're showing, like the CBT, like I was not aware of any psychoeducation at all in the military, or even from my time as a child kind of growing up. So
Right.
these people standing in, dedicating their time to help us out or get us back on track or understand something, really made an impact on me, to the point where, okay, maybe I need to go figure out a little bit more and go study psychology, because I have a lot of questions. And the school I went to didn't have a philosophy degree as well. So I said, okay, I'll be able to do something useful or something practical that'll develop.
Yeah, the stole, the veteran stole, I've not seen, and I've graduated, I think, 5 times now, almost 6. So like, but I haven't necessarily walked. I think I bought 2 sets of regalia and then didn't go. So,
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. But that's what happens when you go online. Sometimes it's just not feasible to do the walk. But
like really
so
difficult.
what, out of all of the things you could do, I mean, you're a decorated veteran, like what made you say, ooh, psychology?
Yeah, so I had so many questions that were not being answered or not capable of being answered by the chain of command in that way. After my third deployment, within probably about the first week or so I got back, we were going to have a big barbecue. And I got a pretty difficult call. I got a call in the morning, the one where it's just bad news. And it was that my friend, my brother Henry, who I mentioned a little bit earlier, who got me into the Army. We used to play all the time as kids, climb trees, hit each other with the rocks. He had taken his own life and completed suicide. And from that point was really when the veil or the persona of me trying to keep things separate, say, okay, when I'm out of uniform, I'm just at home, which was really me just getting drunk. And when I'm in uniform, I'm going to be the coldest, hardest dude possible. And that was, okay, maybe I'm abusing my power and hurting people in some ways. And I neglected to look at myself at all. I was just externalizing everything to what was around me. So after I got back from my third deployment and my childhood friend had completed suicide, I really started to take a swivel. I had some difficulties with my head after the lightning strike, and then with a heat stroke about a year or two later. My body was in a really weird position. I had developed this thing called like bradycardia, to where my heart rate is very, very low. And they put, all these things in me. And I was just feeling further and further and further and further away from myself or what I knew. And thankfully, I had the biggest grounding force for me was my wife, Allie. She's the one person throughout my military journey. She had known me before I had put on a uniform. We had known each other since we were probably about 14 or 15.
Mhm.
And then started courting her when I was around 20 years old. Just absolutely fascinated and enamored by her. And she saw me before I put on the boots and was there to say, hey, like, you are acting, very, very different. This isn't the you that I know. And it was really difficult for me to hear at first. I said, oh, the Army thinks I'm a liability right now. You think I'm a liability, or, trying to treat you this way. And I'm all these things just making up in my own head, masking over the voice of somebody who loves me. It's one of those things. And there's, I think it's Kendrick Lamar who says, when love talks, shut up and listen, kind of thing. And that initially, and it took a little bit, but she started me to really just start to work up that courage in another way that I hadn't had before. I had the be the first one in the room kind of energy, but I didn't have the, hey, I don't feel so good kind of energy. I didn't have that either awareness, or I couldn't even admit it to myself in a lot of ways. So I rose my hand and I talked and I said, hey, something's up. And the advice was, hey, go take a knee, go get yourself seen. You've done a lot for your country. I only had support from my first sergeant and my chain of command, by, just reputation, but also knowing, as those things that when you're a kid, you don't understand that your parents have been a kid and they've lived through life as well. And it's kind of that same thing in the military. Sometimes you forget that, oh, Sergeant Major at one point, oh, he was a fuzzy, or he was a specialist kind of thing. You forget that at a certain point. But he gave me a few books and I started to go get treatment. And it took a while, and it got to the point, to make a long story kind of short from that, to where I plateaued. And then the Army said, hey, you've plateaued with treatment. You're not getting any better. And you're still not feeling too well. And with everything else that you've kind of brought to light, with either physical injuries, or whether it's with your body, your biology, how your heart's working, we're gonna let you go. And I took that very, very, very hard. I thought this was going to be my 20+ year career. I had buckets
We
and
all
buckets
think
and buckets, of unfinished business. All these things I wanted to do in a very small microcosm, in an occupation. I had essentially created my life through that. And I hadn't done any work on the outside. So, okay, what happens when I'm out of uniform? What does my life look like from that? And they say, like the male brain, upwards to like around 25 years old is when, hey, that thing in your head, that thing's developed. Everything is working, everything's functioning. But I was someone who had developed one side of my brain completely that was oriented towards discipline, customs and courtesies, violence of action, to where I had no sense, at least to where I even have now, of empathy, of compassion, of understanding, or humanity.
the emotional intelligence is.
Yeah, that intelligence didn't serve me at all. Trying to reach the objectives, my emotions were the last thing that mattered, or that I took stock in. Oh, how am I feeling? That doesn't matter. How are my soldiers feeling? Are we able to meet the standards? Can we achieve the commander's intent in that way? So, I mean, after I got struck by lightning, I didn't pursue any care at all. I said, okay, it's time to go on my second deployment. And I did that. And then when I got back from that deployment, I went to another selection process and had a pretty severe heat stroke. And then said, okay, I got to go on another deployment. That was like my medicine, and it wasn't good medicine. It was nice for that one part of the brain, that occupational side, that warrior side, who is willing and ready to sacrifice everything and anything, just to do the job. I mean, just to lace up the boots and go out on patrol means everything, because the circumstances are so large. So
Mm-hmm.
Those
Well,
experiences
and the
really started to
alcohol
set me. Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And it, it's
Mhm.
funny because it would work in very small doses. And it's funny what they say about moderation. But when you're a soldier, you drink like a fish. And that's kind of a part of some of this, I don't want to say like a subculture, because I don't think that's where the Army is going now, to where they're trying to do that. But when I was in, it was a lot of soldiers towards the end of the global war on terrorism who were trying to live up to the standards of the warriors of the past, of the warriors who have come before us. And those were kind of the behaviors that were set, or the mechanisms to cope, was all external, all through a substance, and not through what you're capable of or what you're willing to work for or do. So it's pretty eye opening. And I don't drink like that. Not even close anymore. Not even close. And that's been a huge change just in itself. Being able to remember what happened the night before and the next morning is really good.
I love the work that you said you courted your wife. I don't hear that too often, especially with somebody who's young like yourself.
Well, it's
So,
funny. It was such a process, because I had a crush on her when we had like first met, and
mhm.
that way I said, wow, she is really pretty. I want to talk to her. I want to hold her hand, kind of thing. I want to sing songs and write poetry, all that. And then I went off, got on the train, kind of thing, and joined the Army. And
Wow.
and that was it. And it wasn't until I came back on leave. I came back, and I think it was a holiday leave. It was a pre-deployment leave, and it just so happened that she was there. She was in the area. Um, and then from that point, I said, "This is my chance. This is my chance."
Right,
And I took
right.
everything possible. Even when I got back to Colorado, I said, "Wow, I really love this girl. I don't know if I can say it yet, but I just want to be around her more." Um,
Do,
yeah,
do you,
I don't know if she can hear me out there.
do you think that's what helped you get through your deployments, was knowing that she was back home waiting for you?
Ooh, so that um, really made deployments much more difficult. Um, there was a part of me, I had already done one deployment before we worked together, and that was a single deployment. No girlfriends, no nothing. And just dealt kind of with like homesickness, like, oh, it must be really nice to go eat a hot dog or go to the 7-Eleven like right now and get a
Mhm.
Slurpee, kind of thing. Like little things I used to do as a kid. I'd be reminiscing, smoking cigarettes on a HESCO barrier, kind of thing. Um, it it made deployments more difficult while I was out on mission,
Mhm.
because I hate to say it in terms of a distraction, but it becomes a distraction. Um, but there are those own internal thoughts that are totally mine. Those things that are totally my thought, that is my creation of my passion, my joy, what brings me happiness, to a point of love, or the things that I said, okay, I got to put that somewhere else, because that is too big right now. But then coming back off of mission, it was the most grounding experience to be able to talk to her. And this was later, during the global war on terror, but we would still write letters, but we had much more internet access in that way. So being able to talk to her a couple times a week was the greatest thing. Or to just get that letter, or get a little box from my girlfriend. Oh, the only people who I think care about me is my platoon here right now for what's really going on. But there's someone else who's so deeply invested uh, in me just returning. um,
Mhm.
so it's that duality. It was good for some things and bad for others, and then that balance kind of worked itself out. um,
Right.
yeah.
I I had to ask. So, what were you guys doing when you guys were struck by lightning?
So funny enough, we were on lightning lockdown. uh, so this was the start of the day. It was the start of day 7, which is when you infill by UH-60. So helicopters will bring you onto the area that you'll be working in. And then from there, you'll continue your movements and get closer and closer and closer to the objective. We had just landed. we all got off into the woods. We did our thing. Lightning came up. This is in Florida, near the Gulf. So it's lightning. It's a swamp all the time. And it just started raining. And for about 2 hours, we were on lightning lockdown. At least it feels like 2 hours. It felt like forever. Because I remember we get in backs of 3, or you get back to back with 3 others. And I remember just looking at my watch being like, oh my God, time is ticking. Like, I wish we could just start and move so we can complete like the objective, because it's going to be nighttime. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. But we were all sitting down for an hour and a half, completely saturated, and maybe about 1.5 inches of water. And it just so happened that lightning was hitting around our area, and we were watching, because it's heard it and seen it in ways that I'd never had before, even getting struck. But seeing it hit 300 meters at a tree somewhere and being like, wow, that's crazy. And then somehow it hits 200 meters away. And it's like, oh, wow, that's even crazier. It's getting closer. So for about 3 strikes, and those were arbitrary distances, they were a little bit closer than that. It was strike, strike, strike. So we were all joking about it. We were laughing because we knew we were going to get hit. We didn't know if it was going to be us or someone over there, kind of thing. But there's no way that we are not about to get hit right now, and there's nothing that we can do but just sit here, and kind of welcome it. In that
Sitting
sense.
ducks is the first thing that comes to my mind. Okay, so this may be a stupid question, but what did it feel like? Because I've never talked to anybody who got hit by lightning.
It hurt so bad at first that it was painless. To where I remember smelling and I remember seeing color before sensation kind of got into my body. And some of this is how I remember it. In a sense, it's been a while. I've heard some pretty tall tales from other people who were there about the situation, and it's like, oh wow, I don't know is that really what happened, kind of thing. But it hurt so bad it didn't hurt. And then when I kind of like came back to consciousness, or came back, my body just felt on fire. I couldn't feel my legs. I was, kind of trembling, starting to go into shock. My body didn't start convulsing at first, but a lot of if you ever had like a muscle spasm or anything like that, just think of a total body muscle spasm, but now you're covered in like casein or something, or like Tiger Balm. And it was such a powerful stimulus in that sense that when I first came back to consciousness, did not think I was in the woods at all. I had thought, and to my own testimony, had believed I had seen myself on the desert floor with the trucks. I had thought that we had gotten blown up by an IED on my first deployment. I got sucked back into like this big fear. My first deployment, we were on Highway 1 in Kandahar, and we had never hit an IED. We took a lot of different routes. We were very safe, and we had a lot of ISR that kind of protected us. And everyone worked together to make sure that one bad thing didn't happen. But driving on that road every day for, I think we were doing it for 5 or 6 months, from sun up to sundown. That was my fear in my head, is okay, is today a day we're going to get blown up? Is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be on the way back, kind of thing? Oh, my mind roller is a little fidgety today. I hope that doesn't cause a problem later. So after that strike with these sensations, I kind of my brain got crossed, my wires got crossed. And I kind of thought I was reliving like the next most rational fear. I say, oh, well, this must be what it's like to be blown up. And that's when my brain, I guess, said, this is what you'll see. And then I came back, and they put me on a litter and took me to the hospital. I think it was 6 or 9 others of us that got hit at the epicenter. But it hurt real bad.
Wow. That sounds like an experience I don't want. Really. I don't think anybody wants it.
Yeah. Like other people have asked me because I'm like the traveling circus sometimes every once in a while because a couple friends know about my experience with that, and it can sometimes become like a party trick, like, oh yeah, and Logan, he was hit by lightning, and people will ask, well, what was it like? And I've answered that question a lot, and there's one thing, like, perspective wise, like, while that's like physical pain, losing Henry has hurt a million times more than that split second lightning strike in that way. And I look at these situations a little bit differently, and it may sound a little far out, but I'm honored to have been struck by lightning. And it's one of the few moments to where the earth and the ground and the sky and everything beyond are in connection in that way. And to survive it, was pretty big. But losing Henry, and I'm sure losing a loved one or someone hurts more than getting struck by lightning. So you can survive a lightning strike, if you're with others. If you're by yourself, the chances are abysmal. But we were back to back following protocol. But I don't know. The things we think are painful, we've already experienced much more painful things. I feel like, than just getting struck by lightning. There's a lot of pain happening here.
I was going to say, I don't know if you've noticed it, but I have noticed the entire time you've been on here, there must be somebody that is in the next life that there is like an orb on your face.
An orb on my face?
There is like an orb on your face. I don't know
Wow.
if Dr. J can see it, but I've seen it the entire time. So maybe Henry's with you. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just felt that I needed to say that because it's been there the entire time.
I don't see it on my screen.
I thought maybe it was my screen. And so
Yeah.
I've touched my screen a couple times. And I'm like, no, that's not me. So your friend's with you. Yeah. Your friend's with you. So hopefully that brings you a little bit of comfort.
Absolutely. It does. I'm really big into the mystery of life. There's so much that can be, gnawed at to try and understand. But some things are just to be left a mystery and admired in a lot of ways. But thank you for sharing that with me. It's both cool and funny. I think I can't see the little orb, a little anomaly.
I believe in those things, especially
You'll
now.
see it sure.
Mm-hmm.
What was that, Dr. J?
I said he'll see it on the replay because I see it too.
Oh, do you? Well, that's
Replay.
good. Yes.
Yes, this
So,
is available on YouTube.
forever and ever. Amen.
Dorothy.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's been a
She
little
knows how to
terrifying
post
to some
stuff.
sense.
I don't.
As someone who tries to stay away or keep some distance from social media, the fact that, okay, now I'm going to be doing something that will live permanently and is meant to be, watched and digested and processed is pretty far out. It was a little scary at first, but I mean, of course, stepping up to the plate, that's kind of all gone.
Your story will help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Your story is helping somebody right now. And it will continue to help more people. That's why I started the show. Because everybody has a story and everybody's story needs to be told.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my veterans or first responders are a little bit hesitant to come on and share their story. And I give kudos to everybody who has come on. It's not an easy thing to do if this is your first time. And I know you guys never want to take recognition for anything that you've done. So I know that's a little bit difficult.
That's something that resonates with me, taking recognition or doing anything like that. But yeah, so I've tried to unpack that a little bit as well. While I've been at the school, I'm the former president now of the Student Veterans Unit. But being able to talk with the children of veterans who are, using their parents' GI Bill, and then also people of my own generational society who were soldiers during the Global War on Terror or are still serving in that way. I've really tried to figure out, like, hey, what is it? Why don't we talk or share in that sense? And like the soldier mind just comes, okay, well, it's operational security, keep things locked up, or the suffer in silence, or the, hey, it's not about having a pity party kind of thing. It's just about doing the work. And the way that those things may, because I don't know if that's it, but the way that they may compound over years and years into behaviors is pretty funny. Because it's, once you get us all in the same room, I'm sure you've seen it. We don't stop talking. Um, we don't stop talking. Don't stop joking.
Yeah. You shoot the shit and you give each other shit.
Yeah.
It's funny because I belong to I don't know if you've ever heard the organization Angels 14, but we meet every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So if any veteran or first responder or ally is listening in at this moment and wants to get in on this, it's the best 30 minutes of my week. Sometimes we'll go for an hour depending on and if anybody needs help or anything like that. But we just get together, shoot the shit, be there for each other.
Yeah.
And it's for me, it's one of the best, best half hour of my week. Dr. J says her signal is bad, so her camera
Okay.
can't stay on, but she's still with us. Is there a storm in Florida?
No, it's just
No.
I don't want to terrorize Spectrum because we might want them to sponsor something eventually, but it's not being cooperative. So sometimes I can be on camera and sometimes I can't. But Logan, like, I want to hear about your next steps, and you may have already talked about this. But what's the next plan?
Yeah. So the next steps I made a goal after getting out of the Army. I'd told all my soldiers who had just about as flimsy as a plan as I did, thinking, oh, wow, it's about to happen. What the occupation I had is going to be no longer, was just, telling them to use the GI Bill. And I made a goal for myself to get a degree before I turned 30, and it happened. So I'm kind of at a really nice spot to set up the next phase of my life out of uniform. And everything that I look at and have looked at for what I want to do, I've seen inklings of it, but I'm really interested in trying to draw more parallels, or to be a translator or a guide in some way for the transitional period from soldier to civilian. In a lot of ways, I think that's where there is a lot of confusion. That readjustment period is really difficult. And that's something that, I've experienced. And after talking with other veterans on the outside, it's like, oh, this is a really big issue for us. Like, coming back is kind of difficult. And oh, I thought it was just me. No. So working with that, I'm in pursuit of a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. So I've been accepted into the program. It starts in August in the fall. So I'm looking forward to that, and to specialize with veterans and first responders in that way, and to get back with my population, because that's where I feel the most comfortable, with my people, with my tribe in that way. And I want to be able to facilitate or help or just be there, because there's a lot of things that you can't force at all. There's a lot of things I tried to force in the military, and it only ended up hurting me more and more. So now I'm in a very long-term mindset. So, okay, instead of the next deployment, I just got to go to the next deployment. Well, what does the next 10 years look like for me now? What does the next 20 years look like for me now? And these are questions I really had never asked myself until I turned probably about 27. And it started, the medical retirement process started to happen. But I want to be able to facilitate healing outside. And recently I've been drawing a difference between what does treatment look like and what does healing look like. And I think healing is something that is done with your peers in community, something that really puts a lot of focus on the interdependence, whether it's the way that we talk to each other, the way that we work and serve with each other, and our connections with ourselves, whether it's something spiritual or something physical. Because I know, like me and a lot of other infantrymen, like physical exertion is very important, and we need that. And transitioning to the outside, being at a computer and a desk, typing a paper, were completely foreign task for me that maybe just want to like run through a wall or eat a brick. They were so hard to fathom and just sit and be steady with. And it really just made me want to go, okay, I just want to go back outside. And even doing some treatments, like when I was leaving the Army or now with some therapies, I want to do something that's beyond four walls, to where, okay, we can go outside and really have some perspective. We can look at the ground and the dirt, and we can look at the sky and the cosmos and those things. And whether they help someone or they don't help someone, it's definitely going to give some kind of perspective, and at the very least, like fresh air, which I think is absolutely crucial. Veterans are a population who work really well with ceremony and ritual. A lot of things that we do are ritualized. Whether it's doing like your pre-combat checks and inspections, the way that you put on your kit, the way that you even tie up maybe loose ends on your kit, everything is kind of very set. So trying to figure out what do rituals and ceremonies look like on the outside, no longer in uniform, but that could be practice. Whether it's something like smudging, or doing something like that. Well, what if? Or going outside and touching grass, or journaling. What do these practices look like, and what's the environment that they're being done? And could that help or amplify long-term healing? And not, okay, we're gonna focus on one thing in your life, and we are gonna work it to death until you leave here in a month or 6 months, and you no longer have this issue, this neurotic part of yourself that you came in here with. I want to be able to do something with veterans that kind of welcomes in our neuroses in some ways, that says, hey, you know what, these things are really big now. We can work them and kind of bring them down a little bit. We're all going to come with different flavors of ourselves in some way, but like, you are you, and the way that you identify with yourself can go above and beyond for what your health looks like. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I get on the Appalachian Trail 5 days a week with other veterans, sandwiching in, with the hiking, something that is holistic, that focuses on the mind, body, and spiritual aspect for the long-term healing of a veteran to just come back into the community. Because I can't know everybody's wants or needs. I think even some of the people I served with, or even people in my family, I get their wants and needs wrong all the time. So to be able to do that as a professional, I think is pretty difficult. So I just want to be able to facilitate something, to facilitate a breath away from honking cars or any kind of those situations. So we'll see. I mean, it's in the process, and I'm going to be going to school to learn how to apply treatment and healing and theoretical orientation to on the ground healing, to what that looks like, to those 30 minutes of, you know what, I have a really hard week, but that 30 minutes with vets, we're just hooking it up, shooting the shit. I feel so good. How can I recreate moments like that with the awareness that, hey, it's going to suck later. Life is going to continue. You're going to come back. Things that are absurd, that are uncertain, that are unexpected are going to occur. But if you've done this, know you're going to return. In the same way that a lot of veterans, we've all kind of drowned. I mean, I hate to be like so cliche, but to drown our sorrows in drink at all. There's a point to where you come back and you return. No matter what, you come back to who you are. You come back to, whether it's you think it's your shit life that you're living or your difficult life, you come back to it. So what can happen in that area that we come back to every time, no matter what substance we're putting in our bodies, no matter how far across the globe we travel, we still come back to what we are, even if we don't know what we are just yet. I think could be found out. But,
I know.
Well, adventure therapy is a thing, and I have some mentors for you when you're ready.
oh yeah, I'll be following up.
Show, because I do. Adventure therapy is huge, and it's whether it's scuba, horses, mountain climbing, like it doesn't matter. That camaraderie is desperately needed for them to find their hope and purpose, and what that looks like for them is unbelievably. It's just a requirement. There's no other way to put it. Like, it's a necessity.
No, I like how you said it. So it's a requirement. It's because it is. It's one of those non-negotiable things. We, as people of service, need to be on teams and collaborating and working together. Whether it's enjoying a joyful spirit or a very difficult, severe spirit, things that are hard to deal with.
Right.
But doing it with others that you trust or you're working towards trust, only shines a light on how insane we are as people, how big humanity and life is. It kind of shrinks away some of those things that, oh, this is such a big problem. No, it's not. You're just living. You're doing everything you need to do. It's just something you're feeling.
Yep. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is something that definitely needs to be communicated more often and normalized.
Yeah, definitely normalized. And I think a lot of people, whether it's like grassroots or at the very top, could do more to provide safety and security for others. I mean, that's the first priority of work, is make sure you have security set up. And I think after service members kind of leave the military, we kind of operate in an area where we don't have any security. Some things may be difficult or completely alien to engage ourselves with, whether it's something like healthcare. Can be really hard.
Yeah.
I had to look that up. I
So,
Googled
Dorothy.
that. Yes.
What? Maslow's hierarchy? Oh.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I was like, what is that again? It's been so long since I've heard it. So I did Google it. And I like that. Love it. For those of you that have no idea what it is, it says it's a motivational theory in psychology proposing that human needs are arranged in a hierarchical order, with basic needs at the bottom.
I'll throw it in there once in a while. It's like a football.
Yeah. Higher level of psychological needs at the top. 100%, especially now in this day and age with the world as crazy as it is right now. Yes, love it. Okay, so Logan, what is the one thing no one knows about you?
The one thing nobody knows about me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If you asked me this question maybe 5 or like 7 years ago, I could tell you so much that people don't know about me. But thinking like now, I try and live a life that is like respectfully vulnerable. I choose who I'm vulnerable with, and I try and share about myself. But for viewers in some way, something that you may not know about me is I love art. I love looking at art. I love creating art. I love just being a part of that process in all different mediums, whether it's sculpture or murals or spray paint or charcoal. It doesn't matter. Any kind of expression that is without language, I'm really interested in, and I really like that. I think it shows a deeper, or it's like an immediate gauge of depth into a person to either see art or to hear what they feel around art. So I think it's amazing for keeping cultures alive as well. So that's probably one thing nobody really knows about me in terms of viewers. I really like art.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. It's funny because that question stumps everybody. Yeah. I don't know. I'm an open book, is what I hear. But there's always something that we keep from somebody. Anyhow, thank you for sharing that. And thanks for
having something juicier. to share. I wish I had like a deep, dark secret I could tell you. Something like, I don't know, I used to be a bank robber, but
Funny you said that today on the news. Excuse me. The first thing I opened up this morning on my Facebook app was in Grimsby, Ontario. There was actually an actual bank heist going on, and somebody was videotaping the entire thing. The robbers flying out into the car.
Yeah.
Some guy was in a suit chasing them with a what do you call that thing? A crowbar, hitting the vehicle with a crowbar. Wait a minute. You just saw 3 robbers run into a car. They robbed a bank. Who knows what they have? They have a gun, and you're going to hit the vehicle with a crowbar.
anything
Whatever.
available. Yeah, anything available.
I'm like, I don't understand it, but in broad daylight. And
Yeah.
wouldn't you think that they'd have somebody actually with the motor running? No, these guys just run into the car and then start the car.
Oh
Like,
my god.
oh my God.
That'd be like me trying to get away in like a manual transmission. Oh, wouldn't make it out.
Anyways, I mean, not that I would ever do that, but I'm just thinking, come on.
What you're thinking. There's always that thought and the analytical thought of, oh, I'm thinking this. Could I do it? Could I pull off a bank heist?
Not right now. I know I couldn't.
Yeah, me neither. If anyone's listening, the authorities are here.
No, it's not something that, I can see desperate times call for desperate measures. I get it. However, no. Anyhow, enough about that before I get in trouble with this. I don't need the RCMP or anybody showing up at my doorstep.
I'm trying not to instigate anymore.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Any last questions, Dr. J, before we wrap this up?
Just he's got a place when he gets his master's, and he knows it. So I'm excited to see what Logan's gonna do.
Thank you.
I was going to say that, but I thought I didn't want to just,
Oh no, we already talked about it.
knowing you,
I already told him.
Awesome. I love it. Another team member on Sempermoda's team. Like, you're just growing.
There's not enough of us, for sure. So.
Well, that is true. That is true. Well, thank you so much, Logan, for sharing your story.
Therapists, I should say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of therapists.
Thank you both for having me. This has been a really, really cool opportunity.
Well, we're glad you enjoyed it. And don't worry. I mean, just a few million people will listen to this and think, wow, Logan was hit by lightning and he lived, and what a great story that he's still here to be able to tell it. Hey, and sorry, I didn't mean that as a joke, but
it's still funny either way.
It's not only just we have a mindset of when we go to MEPS and we take our oath, we automatically assume we're going to serve 20 years, and knowing that, like, no matter how disappointed we are in our career, we can still shift gears and do different things to continue to serve.
Yeah, life doesn't stop. And I think even making a callback to Maslow, it's kind of coming back to that security. I don't have security. Let me join, and I'm going to hold on to this for as long as possible because it's something good.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Logan. I appreciate that you have some new ideas. I'm definitely going to connect you to a couple people so you can figure out an avenue in which to keep moving forward and helping as many people as you can, because they matter and they're worth it. And we got to do whatever it takes to help them get through as well.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Logan, for, like I said, joining us today, sharing your story. Thank you to everybody who was definitely here live. And thank you for those of you that watched us on the replay. We appreciate you. And Logan, I can't wait to hear, I'd like to have people come back a year from now and say where they are now. We're not quite a year yet. The show, but my thought process is maybe having a bunch of people that have been on the show and just having like, hey, where are you now type thing. So we'll definitely have you come back and share where you're at. So can't wait to hear that. And, just thank you so much for what you do, and thank you for your service. And if there's any way that we could help you, just let us know. Let us know what you're looking for, and we'll do our best to help you with that. And we appreciate you.
Thank you too so much for being so generous and so kind in those ways. I truly appreciate it, Dr. Jay and Dorothy. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And you did
All right.
great. You need to do this way more often. I'm just saying.
Thank you. Maybe we'll see. Well, if I come back, it'll be round 2 in a year. And that's what I look forward to.
There we go.
And then in 3 years to be wearing a hat, a separate notice hat. So there you go.
Yeah. I don't know if I can wear something as an Army infantryman that says Semper on it, but we'll see. I don't know how I do with Latin. Yeah.
That is funny because that is Navy term, is it not? And she served in the Air Force as well, so that's kind of unique.
It's a
Now
Marine.
that you said it, right? Navy
Marines. Semper Fidelis. Right. It means always faithful. It's Marine. But Marines are part of the Army. They're like your little brother, so you've got a little like association there.
They're like your little brother who's also a part of triplets. I've only met Marines in waves and in large quantities. They continuously always travel in packs, which is good. But where there's one, there's another.
They do. Like that. We like that they do that. Yes.
Other branches should take that. Should take their culture and upon themselves.
Yes. Very true.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, that's it for this week. Till next week. Next week we have an amazing duo couple. She was in the military, and she was also a firefighter, and he was a police officer, and actually from my hometown in Windsor here. So the Francises will be on our show next week. So super excited about that. Canadian veterans first ever on the show. So I'm excited. Not that I'm not always excited, but to have them be the first ones that are Canadian like myself, I'm a little bit overjoyed. Yeah, awesome. I know. Yes. So can't wait to hear their story. And again, thank you so much, Logan. And with that, be kind out there. And if you need help, please reach out to us. We'll get you in touch with people that can help you with somebody on Dr. J's team. Or, if you just want camaraderie and connections, join us Fridays at noon on the Angels 14 call. For that information, just send me an email at grahamdorothy408@gmail.com, and we will get you the Zoom link for that. But I promise you will have the time of your life, and it will be the best 30 minutes of your week. With that, be unstoppable in all that you do. And remember, same time, same channel next week. Bye for now. Oh, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Unstoppable Overcomers. Subscribe, share with your friends.
Yeah, do that.
Share with everybody. If you have a newsletter, please put it in your newsletter. I would be more than grateful and thankful if you would do that. So, see you next week.